And I'm not sure who all's doing mega conference. Is that some of you?
Yes.
So we can start, but we'll open with a word of prayer first. And Mrs. Mooney will open with for us.
Yes. If you bow your heads, pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the creation you've made. We thank you for the blessings you have given us. We thank you for the strength. We ask that you watch over Marie and her family and the recent loss of her beloved Paul. We ask that you mend their hearts and give them peace and strength. We ask that you watch over Dr. Long's family as they're traveling to see about a new grandbaby, and we ask that you present healing and health for this new baby and mom. We just thank you for the board gathered here. We ask that you give us clarity, vision, and wisdom for any decisions to be made. We thank you for your Son, his love for us, and his saving grace. We ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mrs. Mooney. And so we will start with the first item on the agenda, which is the mega conference update and report.
Absolutely. We're really excited about this work. The Mega Conference is one of our signature professional developments supporting all the educators here in Alabama. A lot of love, intention goes into this, making certain that all of the sessions actually align with the priorities that have been set forth by the board through Dr. Mackey. It is a privilege to be there myself the full week to support these activities. We also have Mr. Markin that is very instrumental in supporting this work, as well as all of our staff. Staff back here, just stand up for a moment. All of our staff that participate in the Mega, it is a collaborative event. So we pass on to all of you all for the great work that goes on. And again, this is to support our educators across Alabama and meeting the priorities that have been established by this board through Dr. Mackey. And with that, I present to you Shantia Washington, one of the Assistant State Superintendents, and Dr. Molly Killingsworth, our Federal Programs Director. And
I think it should have been stated that all of you need an extra round of applause for being awakened at 2 o'clock in the morning with a fire alarm.
don't say all of it.
Running downstairs in your gym, and then coming and having this wonderful thing going on. But I think you should
We don't
know
say all of the hiccups, Ms. Ziegler. We just say we're the events when they kick off that they go. There are a lot of things that occurs behind the scene that we don't talk about. We just kind of make certain that the event is what it needs to be, and you spill the beans. So we don't tell all of those things. There are a lot of technical situations that people need mics and different things. We don't tell you those things. We just got the runners to go to make it happen, to make certain that the event is what it needs to be for our educators. And it's just a privilege to work alongside these young ladies and assisting with this event. So I turn it over to them to share the updates.
One thing first, Dr. Martin, who was cutest in their jammies?
That was Ms. Ziegler.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, good morning, and board members, thank you for having us here this morning to talk about such an exciting topic, our Mega 2025, which the theme this year was Elevating Alabama's Future, Leading with Vision and Inspiring with Action. So this year we did just that. With our Mega Conference, we started out the event with our wonderful leader, Dr. Mackey, who provided us with inspiring words that talked about, first of all, concerning our vision, our priorities for the state, along with ensuring that we all knew what our actions should be moving forward as it related to the accomplishments that we had already made and where we needed to move forward and ahead moving forward as it relates to those priorities and how they were all aligned. So it gave participants an opportunity to see all of their hard work, how it paid off. And I think that really started the session off in a great manner by inspiring them to know that their hard work is paying off. And then it led us to having our renowned leader, great New York author John Maxwell provide us with even more information relative to digging deep inside of us to see what our leadership skills are and what we needed to do as it related to students across the state of Alabama. And it was just a wonderful session for both of those items. With that being said, we continue to do so by inspiring our young people to come forth and take part of this event, and we do that every single year as well. We try to make certain that we have participants from schools to come and do either a song, dance, or whichever art they would like to perform for us. And this year, it was Be the One, which was written by Michelle Walker, and as a result, a performance was led by Sarah Land Middle School Choir, and as you can see here, this is just that wonderful group who provided that presentation for us. And it was a very inspirational song because it kind of talked about bullying, basically was the theme, but it inspired us to know that you're not in this by yourself. It takes a team effort to inspire students to make certain that they are working one with another and being the best that they could be. So it was a very touching performance that was led by Sarah Land Middle School Choir.
And so each year we have a pre-conference session. If there's a specific topic that not just a number of individuals, but that's throughout the state, statewide, people are interested in, we don't want it to compete with other sessions. And so we had the pre-conference session on school safety that Dr. Whaley did. And it was very well attended. It was packed. No seats in there, people standing. It was great. And then also we had the, next slide please, the Be Pro, Be Proud. This is the exhibit, if you're not aware of it, with career technical education, where the students can come and they can kind of real life, hands-on, kind of try out different careers they may be interested in. So we had that exhibit in the exhibit hall with different times for the teachers to go and check it out. We also had early bird sessions. So each day, the sessions started at 8:30, current sessions, but we know there's some early birds that get up and want to do something early. So we had Money Talks, which was very well attended with the fiscal cliff, you know, with the minus COVID funds. That was a very well attended session. The ALSD executive team, our teachers always want to hear from the State Department, and so listening to our executive staff speak on the priorities, where we're going, it was really well. I think that one was packed out as well. And then John Maxwell's team had a leadership session as well, early bird session on Thursday morning. And so those were our sessions, the early bird sessions.
May I interject there? And attending those, have you not noticed that when we first started those early birds, there weren't that many of us that went?
Right.
And that, as you said, they were packed out.
Yes.
So it wasn't just sitting there drinking coffee, they were interactive and talking. So I want to applaud y'all on these early mornings, because it just sort of sets the pace for that day.
Yeah, they grab their breakfast and come on in.
Right. I thought all three of them were fabulous.
Just to give you some information about the actual mega conference itself, there are 28 tracks that a session can fall under. And when we look at the individual sessions, we look to make certain too that they are aligned to our priorities for Alabama Achieves. And in doing so, we vet the actual sessions that are presented to us. Some of these sessions are led by ALSDE individuals, and some are proposals that are sent in from the districts, and some are districts that are encouraged to present based upon performance or what have you in a particular area. So it's a mixture, but it will fall under one of these tracks, and they go in and they make that selection, and then we look at their application based on that track.
So we had over 400 presenters, and again, ALSCE staff had to vet and approve each of the proposals. Our attendance was 3,290 overall, and over 500 sessions. Of course, we had some sessions that were repeated, and those are just some pictures from the various sessions.
The preliminary data, we do an evaluation, so we can make certain that we're on top of our game at all times. And we take those evaluations and we look at them specifically for information to help guide us in future mega sessions. So the preliminary data, and the reason why we say it's preliminary is because they have about a month outside of the actual mega session to provide us with their feedback for those evaluations. So approximately 60% of the individuals indicated that they were very satisfied with the early bird sessions. 40% said they were satisfied. As related to the session topics, about 51% said they were very satisfied, 46% satisfied, and 3% indicated they were dissatisfied. And then the overall mega experience, 58% indicated they were satisfied, 41% said that they were satisfied, and then with the 1% saying they were dissatisfied. I think I started off by saying 58% said they were very satisfied, then satisfied, then dissatisfied. So that, right now, those are our preliminary numbers, and of course, we'll have a final by the 1st of next month once we close the evaluation session.
So we always want to know that the participants are actually using the information that they learned. So of course we had a question regarding that, and you can see on here 98% said they either very likely or likely to use the knowledge acquired. 2% said they were unlikely. And then looking at attending mega next year, 92% said they are either very likely or likely to attend mega next year, with 8% saying unlikely. And with the what's going on with the funds and not knowing about the funds that are being available, we expected that to see some that said unlikely to attend.
So the planning begins in a manner like now. We start actually once we end one mega, we kind of begin the next. So we want to try to give you an idea, if you go to the next slide, on what this planning looks like. First of all, we have lead team members that take on responsibility for certain key areas. And if you will see there, all of this work is being led by our Deputy Superintendent, Mrs. Martin, and we have key people who are responsible for certain areas. One additional person that's not there but is very instrumental in our graphic artist work, and that would be Charles Creel. He's also the signage man, as we call him. So anything dealing with graphic arts and signage, he's definitely the person that will take on that responsibility. But these individuals are responsible for these key areas. As we stated before, and we cannot reiterate, we'll say it over and over and over and over again. This is not a one-man show. It is a team that can come together to pull all this work. As you can see, every single section is represented here in some kind of shape, form, or fashion. Every office is hit. If it's nothing from legal to accounting to technology to communications, it's just every single person giving all they have concerning the work that has to be done to pull the mega off. Inclusive of our chief and staff, who was wonderful enough to assist us, he and Anna, with getting our keynote speaker this year. So it's everyone coming together doing their part. And this is somewhat of the timeline. We start in August, and I'll let Dr. Collinsworth take it from there.
So now we're looking at debriefing, we're reviewing the evaluations. We have another week or so before we will cut them off where all of them should be in. And then we'll look at the evaluations, figure out what are those sections that were really highly attended, and give that feedback to the section leads. So then we'll open it back up, meaning open the portal for submissions. October through December, we start looking at the logo, the theme, who are possible keynote speakers, all of those things that we need to start with, contracts. We normally do our internal sessions first before we open it up to the outside. We want to see what our staff, what sessions our staffs are going to present, or sponsored sessions from if it's somebody in the field that we want to make sure that they get in. We'll do that October through December, and then December, January timeframe, that's when we open it up for the external, for the public. Registration open, the hotel reservations open, and I have to say, you know, in case you heard somebody saying, well, all the hotel rooms were full, there are people, before they leave mega conference, they go ahead and book for the next year. And so, yeah, so although it opens up officially in December, January, there are some people that already have their, already have the rooms available. And then February through April, that's where we work on the schedule, go back and forth. We try to make sure, for example, there's some LEAs where the federal programs director is the same as a special ed person, so make sure those, they don't conflict, make sure, they're able to attend everything they would want to attend. And that's why, another reason why we have the strands or the tracks. May, June, the schedule is published to the public. We have the Mega app that's deployed, and just to give you a little information about the Mega app, although the conference is over, anyone who attended Mega, they still have access to the app. The app stays live until we cut it off. We don't cut it off until we start planning for the next year, until it's time to put the information for the next year. So they can actually go in now and get a presentation. If they only saw one part of a session or they couldn't attend a session, they can still go in and get the presentation. And they can also go in and get and do evaluations, they can still do that.
In addition to that, the app also affords us an opportunity to have a record for those individuals as they enter and attend those various sessions. Because at the end, we also, which we're doing right now, collecting all that information to provide a certificate to the individuals to make certain that, to show and verify that they participated in the session. So that is also one of the reasons why it's so important to have that app and to be able to use it for record keeping as well. And we have for the future, our Mega 2026 actually is right around the corner. It's going to be July 20th through July 20th to 24th, 2026. I can't even hardly get that part out. Believe it or not, it'll be 2026 before you know it. So we are already in the works of planning and securing the necessary speakers, sessions, etc., and look forward to 2026. Are there any questions that you may have at this time? We'll be happy to entertain.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
I must say you all lived up to the name of the conference, Mega. You all did an awesome job. Time well spent.
Thank you.
As a part of those evaluations, do those attendees have the opportunity to share things they might like covered in the next conference, or something that they feel was important but maybe they didn't get to attend?
Yes, we asked, there are a couple, we only have a few questions on here, but there's one question that asks, what suggestions do you have for like keynote speakers, pre-conference session, that type, and then we also give them the opportunity to weigh in on the logo, the theme, just so they'll feel like they're a part of it. And all of that information we bring back for the committee to discuss.
And their comments also assist us in knowing like what repeated sessions we may constantly need to have based on what their response was. So that kind of gives us the idea of whether or not we'll have a huge crowd for that particular session. So it helps out in that area as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions you may have?
Shantia, if I could just add this piece also, as we're looking at data from all of our school districts, that's one of the factors as well that we plug into our needs, because as we're getting our test scores and different items back in, we're analyzing those things to make certain that we look at, well, these standards are missing or they're weak in this area. We need to make certain we bring our people in to give additional support. So we make certain that data is driving what we're doing. In addition to that, the priorities. Whatever priorities we meet and come up with as it relates to our budgets, to know what our focus would be, we go back to our team. And I truly want to commend our whole team for the support and all of the great work that they've done, because this is in addition to the support that they're providing to the districts and the schools. So every proposal, just like they stated, that comes in is vetted. It's read from front to back. And everybody's not happy sometimes when we say we can't accept that, but we have to make certain that it aligns to the priorities that the board and Dr. Mackey have established. So again, as we're getting data, there are some bullet points that we will already have that we know we need to provide prescriptive PD to make certain it is one of those targeted areas. So it's just a mass number. We look at Bonnie and Karen with OMI and ARI. They're the straight leaders. Their regional people are actually in the schools. So when we're having those conversations with Dr. Shields, we come back and we say, what is it that we need to put more emphasis on to make certain that we're giving it to them? So those are the experts that help guide us with our pre-conference sessions as well. So we're making certain that it's truly a data-driven experience and that we're paying attention to all sections here at the department.
That's great. You read my mind.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent presentation
Thank
and
you.
excellent conference from everybody that I've heard from.
Awesome. We do have a little keepsake for you. Every year we come up with something to give to the participants, so we want to make sure that each of you receive. This year it was a clear sling bag.
Now we can go visit the schools with their bags.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And also wonderful football games.
I can add my Alabama colors in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Kay.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else on the board have a question? We're good.
Thank you.
The ACAP
Oh,
reading.
I'm
day-
sorry, I do have something.
All
It
right,
took me a moment for it to come to my
that's
head.
okay.
What I want to say is that besides the fabulous sessions and the early sessions, is that when you're out, and they were from all over the state of Alabama, we had them from our neighboring states, is that the teachers grab hold of you and they want to talk to you and you can listen to what they're saying and but that's good for us to hear and for them to acknowledge that we're listening and learning as well. So for those that, and I know it's a distance to travel, but I've traveled y'all's way, you can travel my way. The sessions are fabulous and that interactive time to let them know, like during lunchtime when you grab a sandwich, I just thought that was very, very helpful. So, and anytime you had a question, I even had some very important people escort me because I got lost. So, thank you.
And that's a very good point. I was not able to attend this year nor last year. However, you can put me down. I'm going this time, okay? So,
You'll
thank
love it.
you.
You'll love it.
I presented one time years ago.
I was about to say, in years past, I used to go
Uh-huh.
all the time, but I've got to start back then.
Yeah, it's good. So thank you very much. ACAP reading data, is that you, Dr. Mack?
Yes, ma'am, that is me, and this is just one slide. Thank you for your patience this morning. Some of the media are following me here. I don't know what's going on, but I think it's a good thing. There must be nothing else going on. Because they had a lot of questions for me this morning, but fortunately, I love that time to talk about the great things going on in our schools, and I will say they ask, and I hope it plays on every station in the state, what's the number one thing that I want to say to people going back to school in the first couple of weeks, and it is get your kids in school, get them in school every day, and get them in school on time every day. So you're going to hear me say that over and over and over and over again, because we need students at school every day on time. Let's look at this. This is not going to be a surprise to anybody. I think I have to, it's not as magical as I thought. There we go. One slide. So I'm going to go across. You see that here's the key. 8.5% of our students at the end of summer tested below grade level reading, third grade. Now, let's talk about what that means. So we had 55,930 third graders tested in the pool this year. So those are students who were in third grade last year. We gave a spring test. At the end of the spring test, 6,470 of them, which was I had that number before, but anyway, 6,470 were below grade level. So summer, how many went to summer programming and had a chance then to take summer reading camp and test again? So 4,007 were retested at the end of summer. So I hear that because that's a concern that everybody in the room has. So where did these 2,400 students go who did not test? Because now there are multiple categories they fall in. So one, they could have gone to summer camp and just opted not to take the test, or parents opted not to test, to just keep them in third grade. That is an option that parents have. Some of those students are probably more severe, special needs, and so they did not, their IEP team met, and they're already working on that, and may retain them or promote them with supports, but they decided that summer reading camp was not the best for that person. some of them are just parents who decided, I don't want my kid to go to summer reading camp. And so some of them, many of them will probably be retained. And so there are going to be lots of different ones there. But now, as you know, our ARI team are digging into individual schools. So are there certain schools where we showed higher numbers of students not responding to the opportunity to go to summer reading camp? And if so, what are the instances around those schools? Is it a transportation issue because they have long bus rides? Is it a inner city school? What part of the state? So those data I don't have for you now, but remember, we'll continue. You're going to see this. These are data you get 3 times. Last month was just this. I always showed you was that. Actually, not last month. That was in June, I guess. We showed you this part. But now that summer's over, 4,000 tested. The number that made it then, tested on grade level, 1,743. Below grade level, still 2,264. So when you put the spring and summer together, where it's 8.5% of our students not on grade level at the end of 3rd grade, and that's with the higher cut score. Remember, we bumped the cut score up this year. That is, it's a little higher than last year, but that would be expected because of the change in the cut score for one. Now, at this time last year, you remember I made this same presentation, but at the end of the year, it was actually less than 1% that repeated 3rd grade. That is a local district decision. In fact, I made comments publicly last year. I was a little concerned about how low the number actually was once the IEPs were done and once the portfolio assessments were done and those special exemptions that are in the law, we ended up with only less than 1% who actually repeated. I'm not trying to retain any children, as you're not, but those students, as we know, I mean, we know they are going to 4th grade, not able to read on a 3rd grade level. And so that school had better have a lot of supports around that child, or they're going to be behind in 4th grade, and they're going to get further and further and further behind. So at least something that's new since the passage of the Literacy Act and all the work this board's done is those children are identified. Prior to that, remember, many of those students were moving on, but they weren't even identified as reading below grade level. So at least now that teacher who is receiving that child knows what level the child's reading on and has a lot of data on that child's performance in 2nd and 3rd grade. This is not the total number of students who went to summer reading camp either. Remember, these are 3rd graders who are having to retest. So there are many more students. I hate to call them staff on the fly, but if you ask, I won't ask them to give it to us now, but there are many, many more students who are 2nd graders who went to summer reading camp, or 3rd and 4th graders. There are many more that are involved in different types of summer reading programs. But this is our number, and that number again will dwindle down as we look at portfolio assessments and all. Somebody's going to ask, when is that going to be? That will probably be October when we'll bring you that data, because we're still getting that now from the districts. So they have a few more weeks to turn into us. How many of your 4th graders were promoted some way other than by a state test? And then they do have to report that to us, and we'll have that number. I don't think I'll have it for the September work session. My recollection is it's usually October, because September's the collection month for that. And then we'll have a kind of a final number of how many actually were retained. I want to say this while I'm here. There was a little confusion, not among board members. None of you asked, but I got while I have the stage to say to the public. Last month, or actually maybe earlier this month, Ms. Hammonds over there went to contract review, and we approved a $37 million testing amendment. There was confusion in the public and some legislators who thought, after all this work, and Dr. Mackey keeps saying we need to keep the same test for 15 years like Massachusetts, are we changing tests? And no, we are not changing tests. The amendment was to keep the same test for a number of more years. So actually what it did, we just took the test we have and extended it more years rather than having to go back to the drawing board to do that. At some point, I think at the end of this amendment, I don't know, there may be one more, or 2 amendment opportunities, but I think at the end of this one in 27, we will have to re-RFP. Doesn't mean you have to change, it means, but it means you have to consider it at least, and you have to consider any vendor that comes forward. There is a way to use the same test, but a different vendor too. Obviously, that means 2 vendors have to work together, but occasionally states do that, where they say, we want to keep our same test, but we want to know who can deliver it at what price point. So we'll be there in a few years. Part of the price tag of that, and if you talk to teachers, one of the best things we've done with our new assessment, which is not as new anymore, is we have a practice test built in that teachers can do for free. So it's a very good through-year assessment that they don't have to go buy from another vendor. It is free to them. But obviously somebody has to pay for that, and so that is built into the cost. There was some question about, well, what's the total price per student? And it's actually very economical because you're getting multiple, you're getting your 3-year test and your end-of-year test and our special education test all rolled into one package. So it's a really good economic deal
Dr.
for
Mackey,
us.
you referenced
Yes, sir.
you could change vendors because we own the copyright on the test, correct?
Well, I don't know that it's not copyrighted really.
We own the rights
It is
to-
our test.
It is
Yes,
our test,
it's
so
our test.
we could, if you're talking about just administering this test, then we could have the different vendors do that.
That's
Or
right.
economically.
Yeah.
Because it's our test.
Yes, ma'am.
I know we have this information because of Power School, and I'm sure we're looking at it, but please remind me of the spring number scored below and the summer number scored below. And even those who, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let me reverse what those numbers. Of the numbers who scored on or above and then in both spring and summer. So are we looking at the children who are on the bubble, as I like to refer to them?
Yeah.
They just barely passed.
Yes.
So they're going into 4th grade, barely passing, and we're not just saying, well, they've made it. And
Yes, ma'am.
what kind of work are we doing with them, I guess is my question.
Excellent question. So one of the things that we changed last year was, prior to, remember we sent a letter to every parent, your child's below grade level. Every child now who is between the cut score and the preferred score, so there's this gap. They're the kids on the bubble. They're the kids who
Right.
just barely made it. They get a letter too. Your
Okay.
child is on grade level. They're above the cut score, but they're close enough that on any day they might bounce
Right.
before. Yeah, any other day that might be test below. Of course, a child who tests 2 points below, the next day might test above too. But yes, so we are sending a second letter to those students who are just above the cut score. In addition, we have the Reading Beyond Grade 3 program that you all started, and those grants have started to go out. And then we have an opportunity for schools to do, in fact, I think we just sent those out too. Look at Ms. Short there, but I have, if they've not been sent out, it's because I haven't got them signed yet, but I've gone through them. Yesterday, the grant, they can get a grant for a reading interventionist in 4th grade. And those we've gone through those requests, and those allocations are going out. I think it's $90,000 per person, which pays for the salary and their benefits. So kind of 3 things. 1, notifying those parents. 2, now we have additional funds that we can support those schools, and as a part of that, providing reading interventionists in 4th grade.
I have a question.
So when you-
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Would not most of the students that have been identified as special ed, would not most of them have had IEPs where they would have taken an alternate assessment and not been included in this number? Or is
No,
that
ma'am.
not being done now?
Yes,
They
ma'am.
all take the
They should,
Clarify that for me.
yes, ma'am. So the only 1%
Okay,
of the most severe
most
students
severe, okay,
cannot take, everybody else has to take this test.
okay,
Now, we realize that there are gonna be students then who, are in the lower IQ range, there are gonna be students that do have a difficulty with this test. And there are probably gonna be some students who can't even read the test.
correct,
But they are, they're included in this number.
okay,
Now, some of those students may be moved on to fourth grade with supports because their IEP team
Say that.
decides repeating third grade will not do this child any good. And they may even be in a self-contained room. But they are still included in the number because they have to be tested unless they're in the lowest 1%.
okay, I just wanted clarity on that.
Yes, ma'am.
So as you send out the request for the support for students above grade 3,
Mhm.
will this align with the data of the students? Let's say you have a school that may not even apply, or may not even request. Are we looking at the data based on the needs versus the school applying for the grant?
Yeah, the short is yes on that, and I can't get into the exactitudes. I might, and I don't know if they want to talk about it now, but maybe we could give them some time and come. But yes, so in other words, a school that's got 99% of their students on grade level, or 100%, so we did have some schools with 100%, they are not going to get that money, or even schools that are doing really well. The money for those reading interventionists and the money for struggling readers beyond grade 3 is distributed not equally across the state, but according to need based on these results.
So in addition to the money, are we also adjusting the support?
Yes,
Will be
there is.
provided?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, there's additional adjusted support. Depends on if they're a level 1. We do level 1, 2, and 3, limited support, full support, and then one that's not one of those. But yes, so if they're a full support school, they get a great deal of attention, a regional reading coach in that, or regional reading specialist in the school very often. A limited support school, they get fewer visits, and those limited support specialists have more schools they cover. And then there's another tier where they get less. Everybody gets some support from the state.
So the adjustments are being made based on the most current data?
The adjustments
For
being made,
support.
yes, ma'am. I don't know when
So
they
you may
get,
have a school that may have done exceedingly well prior
Right.
to this time around, and then
Bonnie
we
Short
adjusting our
fortunately is
support?
dying to speak, and so I'm not actually want to let her speak. Yes, but we do adjust, so like if
Okay.
you may be limited support last year, if your scores get worse, you go into full support this year. But one of you want to address that? Dr. Shields,
Support
Ms. Short.
status has been changing every 3 years.
Okay.
But this is the year that the support status changes.
Okay.
So it will use this year's data to make determinations about the support they receive.
And
Thank you.
we encourage those that may not ask to get some support.
Full
In terms
support
of that
schools don't have a
grant.
choice about getting support.
Okay,
Right.
okay. But that additional grant that you were speaking about,
Oh, yes.
are we encouraging those that may not ask to
Yes.
seek that?
Yes,
Okay, thank
we determined who was eligible this year
you. Okay,
and are submitting the grant to them.
okay. Because I know sometimes not all will move forward.
So it'd be very hard for them to say no. They're pre-identified, so this is how much money you qualify for, and this is how you can use it, sign in return.
Let's say you have full support and you have the same ALSDE team person providing that report, but we're not seeing any progress. Will you change that person?
We evaluate what's taking place in the district as a whole and make adjustments accordingly. So sometimes that person will change and sometimes that person won't, given all the information put together. But if we see somebody isn't helping a district, they're not going to continue their service with us.
We've done that.
So if we are a limited support school, then we have an opportunity to write a grant to get some more support. Is that what you were saying?
Limited support schools, can they get additional funds from the reading beyond third grade if they're a limited support school?
So all schools received additional assessment money so that they could evaluate their students beyond grade 3, because they have that student reading improvement plan until a student no longer has a deficiency. Not until they show the 3rd grade and move on to the next grade. If they have a deficiency, we're still providing that support. So they have that assessment, all schools get that. But then in addition to that, we have the peer tutoring that all schools had an opportunity to apply for last year. And then we have select superintendents who received some additional funds for summer reading camp or before after school tutoring or intervention programs.
The ASAP grants that we've talked about, so that's another opportunity for schools. I know there's a lot of questions about what happens, in 4th grade and beyond. So we have created a task force just among our office that is dedicated on providing supports specifically for grades 4 all the way up. We actually just met Monday looking at NAEP data for 8th grade. What is it we need to be doing in that interim between 3rd grade and 8th grade to make sure we're really filling in gaps? And so a lot of the work that we're doing with the Office of Extended Learning has certainly plugged into that to make sure that we're providing interventions for students, either after school or during the summer.
Keep asking. My theory's always been hire good people and get out of their way. I don't know why I'm standing up here even. They really do a great job, and we are seeing remarkable growth. But as I mentioned, even in our media interviews, so you may see that play, we do have schools that are not seeing the growth we need. We have schools that even went backwards a little bit, and so we don't want to. I was asked, will you give us a list of data? The data's out there, but we're not into embarrassing schools, but we're following up with all those schools to make sure that they have the right plan in place. In fact, to identify what's not right in their plan, I should say, because something's not right in their plan if they're not, seeing that kind of growth. So what is it that needs to be? What's going on? I will give you, won't name the school, but in one particular school, I talked to the superintendent, and it's probably more of a community, cultural, structural issue than it is an academic one. It's a very small school. They're in transit. They're trying to move to a different school building. The current building has a lot of problems. They've had change in leadership, and so they just did not have the focus that they needed in that school. So then the question is, okay, well, how do we make sure this coming year that we're focusing on the instruction for those students that are coming up to 3rd grade? And then the second question is, and for the ones that are going on to 4th grade, now what do we do to make sure? And so that, in many cases, that's the issue. It's not that they're not, that they, anyway, there's a problem with their plan, with implementation of their plan, and so we have to help them get there. The next piece, take any questions on this, but the next piece is also about reading, and I think Dr. Peacock's here, there she is, to come and talk about that. If you want to kind of tie these two together, we've made a simple change in the, or asking you to make a simple change in the reading assessment we use for college, but fortunately she's taken this time to really give more detail even about that, and so I will, I can handle this. I can do the slides. Look, something I can do. Well, maybe I'll there you go. Maybe I can't do it actually. Oh, it's a different. Oh, that's just a
Different power.
I would say that somebody tried to do that just to trick me, but actually Mr. Crenshaw said, let me handle it. So let me just move over here to my seat.
Thank you very much, Dr. McNeil.
Good morning, everyone. This was a great place to follow, seeing the reading scores. Of course, we're on the other side of it now, where we've been looking at students. Now we're looking at teacher preparation and the tests that are associated with that. So if you remember a few years ago, we did a lot of research and we decided that we were going to adopt the Foundations of Reading Assessment. This was a test that's administered by Pearson, which is the same company that does our EdTPA. It was a Massachusetts test that we were adopting at that time, that Pearson served as the administrative company that oversaw that testing. So we've been with Foundations of Reading now for several years. I believe that was 2022. And now they're making a change. It's going to be a very positive change and also a very small change. So I wanted to share this information with you guys today. And of course, if there are questions, we can talk about that. All right, so next slide. So basically what's happening now with Foundations of Reading, Pearson, the company, they have their own National Evaluation Series platform. And that platform is where they house all of their content and pedagogy tests that Pearson develops and handles. So Foundations of Reading has been outside of that platform as part of a Massachusetts test. We are so excited they're going to be able to bring that into their platform as their test. And so much like when we had to change the number for the elementary test, I don't know if you guys remember that with Praxis, we're going to have to do the same thing with Foundations of Reading. So where we've had Foundations of Reading 190, now we're going to have Foundations of Reading 890. That number changes, but that's where the differences stop as far as the test itself. So there are no changes, physical changes to the test. We're going to talk about that on the next slide, but you will no longer see the number 190. If you guys approve this, we will begin using that 890. So very important information on this slide for you. The content, the structure, the item bank, the passing score, everything that you guys approved for 190 remains the same. It is simply a number change. So I want to make sure that you all understand that piece of it, because, you know, if there are changes that are made, we want to know what are the changes, but there are no changes that are happening here, just moving it under that umbrella. But with doing that, we do get some extras that are really nice, and we're going to talk about those on the next slide. So now that it's going to be part of the National Evaluation Series platform, we get some perks, some really nice perks actually. The first one is something that everybody in this room can applaud. It's what they call free after 3 attempts. And so with any test that Pearson has under their platform, and for us it would be our 890, if after 3 attempts, if the student or the individual is still not successful, attempts after number 3 are free. I know you've all heard it, you know, teachers, you know, it's a lot of money with testing. They don't have a lot of extra money. They're in school. This is hard for them. So that free after 3 is a big positive change with this particular transition. In addition, the practice test that's on our current website with 190 is a PDF that they can print off and they can take and study and go through. That's going to actually change to a full-length interactive practice test that will be on there as opposed to just the PDF version. Young people like computers, they like to be able to click through things, so I think this is also a very positive change. The third thing is their Right Start series. This is their modules that they have put together, they being Pearson, to help candidates to get prepared for either their initial time testing, or if they're retesting, they need to go back and they need to revisit some areas where maybe they're struggling. So the Right Start is available. Now this is a for purchase, it's not a free thing. That would be wonderful. Unfortunately it's not, but pricing is pretty reasonable. They can do a 30-day subscription to this for just $35, which is pretty reasonable. Or if they want to have more time to study and prepare, that would be me, they can do the 90-day subscription for $75. So that is an addition as well for this. Now our colleges and universities, Of course, their big concern with any testing that they do is what do we need to do to help our students prepare to be successful before they take those tests. So they are constantly reviewing data as it comes in from various tests that they give, to see, you know, where are the holes in that particular university, where are we falling short. So another big perk with this that will be great for our colleges and universities is that we're going to be able to drill down further than we were with 190. So with 190, they could look at the data at the sub-area level. So this particular test has 4 sub-areas to it. They could look just within those groups of sub-areas as far as how their students are performing. So with 890, in addition to being able to look at the sub-areas, they're going to be able to look at the actual objectives that are within that sub-area. So like say if we're in the reading comprehension area, we'll be able to look, you know, specifically at the different areas that are within that. So like instructional practices for reading comprehension would be like a sub-area that's within that, that would be a objective level that's within that sub-area. So they could look specifically at the reading comprehension piece of that. So a lot of good changes with this, really no negatives that I see, just a new number, and that means I get to redo all of my forms. But, other than that, I think it's a positive change for us. So I'm certainly here to take questions if you.
Can I ask one?
Excuse me, of course.
Is it possible that the universities can buy Right Start contract for their students?
They have the opportunity to buy vouchers, and so those vouchers can be used for those types of things. Our direct contact with Pearson is already made contact with many of the universities about these vouchers. If they have vouchers already in place for 190 that they purchased and they have not been used, they can move those vouchers to 890 so that money is
So is there, if they buy vouchers, is there a cost breakdown for multiple purchases?
Now, that part would be outside of my wheelhouse. That's something I could certainly get.
Yes.
I could certainly get that information.
I mean, if we're dealing with Pearson, I mean, if I were dean, I certainly would want since it's one of the ways I'd get evaluated, and I've been in programs where they provided that service to try to make the scores look better. The performance of the students better, let's say. It should be worded more appropriately. So I think that the concept of multiple vouchers as a price point for the colleges should be something we should try to help negotiate.
Absolutely, and I can get some additional information on that.
Well, since
I
we're
know all of
negotiating
them
with
use
Pearson,
it.
we're in a better position to get a quantity discount than just individual universities. I'm certain Athens State would appreciate it, and even the University of Alabama.
Absolutely. Well, I'll see if I can get some additional information on how that's done. I know that the vouchers are out there and there is a partnership with those particular testing companies to get the vouchers and to use the vouchers. But beyond that part of it, we can certainly get some additional information. But we're excited about it. We want them to have them and be able to use them.
You know, the vouchers, are they for all the students or individual vouchers for students?
It depends on what the university decides to purchase or how they want to use them. You know, some will put it in as part of a tuition package.
Because I'm thinking like 242 ring, the one that we have is for all of our students, and most universities are using that.
Right, yes.
So it would be very similar to that.
It would be very similar to that, that is correct. So it depends on how they want to use those vouchers. And, you know, if they have a student that they know is struggling, maybe they've tested several times. I've had situations where I work directly with the university and the student, you know, we can get on the call together, and many times the university will say, gosh, we've got an extra voucher here, let me get you set up to use that voucher, let's get you some additional test prep before you test again. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to be able to complete that triangle and problem solve. If that little bit of extra help would get them over at no additional cost, we want that to be available.
Well, some of the tuition charges $35 should be a throw-in, almost an automatic. But if they get a price break,
Right,
Be helpful.
right.
This
I
is
guess
very
I'm always
positive.
the issue.
Yes, I think it is very positive.
Especially that enhanced data analysis, because we have not been able to dig that deep as we
No.
are now.
No, the sub-area is,
Disaggregation.
is a big umbrella with many things up under
The
it,
levels,
so,
yes.
yes.
I think it's very positive.
I think so too. Absolutely. Any additional questions? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you, Dr.
Sure.
Peacock, especially for taking time to
Yes.
explain the changes and the new opportunities. Remind us why we switched to this test.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, so let's see, what is next? This is out of reading,
School-based child nutrition.
child nutrition. I don't think there's a slide on this. So you see that the changes, the next couple I'll probably have to rely on Mr. Watts for the questions. But child nutrition programs, one of the complaints, I don't know if you hear complaints much, but for a long time has been that the requirements to become a child nutrition program director, so this is central office, have been too stringent and it's very hard to find them. They basically had to be special certified nutritionists, especially in really small school districts. So the federal government listened to that and they have changed the rules. And what we're proposing is to change our rules to match their new rules. This change actually has crossed administrations. It was proposed under the prior administration in Washington. It's become finalized now, but essentially what you see is we strike some language out. Child nutrition program director in a district that's 2,500 students, over 2,500 students, they still have to have a bachelor's degree, and there are like 5 options of other things they can do. So they can be certified, they can be a nutritionist, but there are ways for them to be certified beyond just getting a strict nutritionist degree, because there are so very few of them. For somebody who wants to be a child nutrition program director in a school district less than 2,500, they would be able to have high school diploma and a series of other certifications. This will open up the pool. The big thing I've heard through the years, and I know that Angelique Lowe that leads our child nutrition, her folks have heard. There she is. I'd have missed you. So, well, good. I've got somebody I can rely on now. But one of the big issues is, especially in small school districts, they may have somebody who's really good, who's like been the high school cafeteria manager forever, but she doesn't have a college degree and therefore doesn't qualify for a promotion. And but they may only have 2 sites, and she's already managing one of those sites. And so this will allow that person to apply for that central office director's job and get a promotion. Now they have to go through a certification program with the School Nutritionist Association. They have to be certified by our department that they're ready to take that extra responsibility on. So it's not like they can just move into it, but it's going to open up some job opportunities for people who have been locked out of those jobs in the past. And it will also allow, in the schools that have more than 2,500 students, again, we're going to have some managers who go back to school and get a college degree, and they're going to also be able to apply for jobs they were locked out of before, but they may not have been able to get a degree in that nutritionist, because not all colleges have that program. It requires a great deal of internship hours, so they might have to quit their job as the cafeteria manager to even complete the degree. So they may not go back and get a degree, but it may be in a related field that's not directly that. So I think it's a great move forward. This would be a proposal to announce the rule as we do. The rule then would lay on the table for 2 meetings and then could come back and be finalized after, just like this morning you finalized the paid parental leave. Ms. Lowe does a great job. Stand up. They don't even know, a lot of them may not know who you are. Angelique Lowe leads our child nutrition work. She does an amazing job. That's big. Remember, we do child nutrition. It's a multi-billion-dollar program in all of our schools. school breakfast in most of, I'm gonna say most, maybe not most of our schools, but certainly most of our elementary and primary schools now. Plus, they manage, remember, all the federal distribution of funds for all the food banks in Alabama. We do summer feeding programs, we have weekend feeding programs, we have nighttime feeding programs. So it's not just school lunch. School lunch is a big piece of it, but it's a huge operation that provides, for many families, the children are getting most of their meals through our department. Because they're getting breakfast, they're getting lunch, and then they're getting summer programming too. So it's a big, big project. I got a great email last night from a principal or superintendent. I have to remember, I won't say who, which region of the state, but they were so excited about our new support for school breakfast programs. So if you run a school breakfast program, but you don't have a lot of students who qualify for free breakfast, then you are actually running that program in the red. And so we were able to, there's some money from the legislature this year. It took them a long time to explain to me how it works, but basically we were able to help those schools continue to offer their breakfast program and not run it in the red. And it was only, I don't know, like $7 million statewide. So those funds went out this week. And I immediately got a great response from somebody who was otherwise going to lose their breakfast program without that funding. So thanks to you, Ms. Lowe, for the work you do. If there are questions, I may turn them to her. I don't know if she came prepared for it, but I can tell you we can get you an answer if there are any questions about it. And I think if you talk to superintendents, I've not talked to one that had anything negative to say about this rule change. So, anything with that? Okay, so what do we have next in there? I think it's maybe our department budget. Is that next? Okay, so this is something those of you who've been with us remember every year. So that, and I always do the explanation again, so let me do it again. You're working on multiple budgets at one time. This is not the foundation program budget, which we will start working on at the retreat in 2 weeks, and then we'll move it through. This is the department's operational budget. What the law requires is that the money that comes from the legislature, which is a piece of our money, and you see that essentially at the top, $29 million, that the board adopt a budget for that money. Remember, we also have federal money that comes in, our child nutrition program money, indirect costs that we get from various grants. So there's additional funds, but I always like to point out that we are one of the smallest funded state agencies from the legislature. They really provide us with a relatively very small amount of funding, which is fine because we're able to generate funds through our federal indirect costs and other things, and hopefully we'll continue to do that. But we do get about $29 million from the legislature. Most of it goes to salaries. You see here a split. As you go down through there, you also, some maybe say, well, what about the other? It comes out $54 million at the bottom. Well, there's other money in there. So, for instance, there's a $10 million line item there. That doesn't stay at the department. Not one penny of that stays at the department. It's pass-through money for districts. That's the money that's set aside for special unmet needs. Basically, if a district has a need they just can't meet, an emergency, a fire or something like that. There's a revolving fund for that. Otherwise, it's pretty close to what we see. What you saw last year. At the bottom, I point out we always just include our where's our employee level, and that number changes from month to month. And so Mr. Watts this morning, he came in and he said I pulled that. So you see 548. That includes our regional people, our retired people. Those are budgeted positions. That is not how many people are working. We generally are operating with about 80 open positions, many of which we never intend to fill, but we don't want to lose them because if we give them up, the state personnel department may not give them back to us and we might need them someday. So we cut last month, he told me about 440 actual paychecks, including all of our retirees that work for us part-time. So it's really relatively a small agency. In consideration, an agency like Revenue, I think they've got about 4,000 employees. I think the Department of Human Resources has about 1,500. So when you look at how many people did we pay last month, including part-time retirees, 440. It's a pretty relatively small chips, but nevertheless, we do a lot of work, and this will come to you. This is not something that takes multiple months. It will just come to you next month for adoption, and we always like to get it done before October 1 because it goes into effect October 1. It does not include a pay raise for our employees for the first time in multiple years. Now, the legislature this year did not do a state employee pay raise or a teacher pay raise, but they did fully fund our state employees' health insurance as they fully funded PBIP. So that was good. And it took a lot of money, and thus there was no money for pay raises.
Not just a lot of money, does our travel come out of here?
Your travel?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't.
Yeah, it would be, any board travel and all would come out of this, out of that general overall, there's a travel line item in there.
I saw it, just to know it.
Yeah. So that would include.
And our big salaries come out of here, right?
So all of our salaries come out of here. Your salaries come out of here as well, yes.
Never mind.
So that's that. Look through it. If you have questions, certainly let us know, and you feel free to reach out directly to Mr. Watts with any questions on that. School Nutrition Week. That'll be, obviously, we're talking about school nutrition, but that will be next week. And that's all of our action items. So, Ms. Manning, if there are any questions, otherwise I do have other things to talk about, but we'll move into those. Don't grumble over there. Another whole folder, Dr. Reynolds. I'm going to get you to lunch.
Is that including the retreat?
It includes the retreat, yeah. So the main thing I want to talk about is the retreat and the upcoming budget discussion. And a couple of other things. So one, Mr. Markham there has our retreat. Here, you don't have to get out. Just hand it to me and I'll pass it around. So we've got a draft agenda here for the retreat. Remember, that's just in 2 weeks. And I want to just kind of talk through that just a little bit with you. So we would.
Dr. Mackey, is this Dr. Long's?
Yes, and I'll get it to him, yeah. And I have a couple of extra things. So we would propose, come to, thank you, just come to the, start at the Renaissance Ross Bridge. So we were fortunate, really, I got to say thank you to Chuck Markham and to Anna Morris. They really worked on this. And we got some really good rates there. But now we are holding you a room, and I know you've gotten that by email, but it's really important if you don't want the room that we release it, because otherwise we can't hold those on the state's credit card, so they're being held on a personal credit card.
Yours?
So,
Yours?
that's not mine, Dr. Rose. You won't even get to stick it to me if you don't come.
Well, okay.
But we don't want to pay for that room if you don't come. If you come, now I know that one of the struggles about this is going to be, well, that's pretty good distance from American Village. But we felt like, it's a really nice place. We got a really good room rate that's under the per diem the state will let us all do. And it's actually cheaper than the Holiday Inn that's there in Calera. So we're going to have about an hour's drive. And that's why what we suggest is let's just go up there and have dinner. We'll do a little orientation and talk about the next day. And then the next morning, you'll see we're not starting at American Village until 9 o'clock, which gives you a full hour if you don't want to leave till 8 o'clock. If you want to leave earlier, fine, but gives us plenty of time to get down to American Village. We'll be driving against traffic, so it'll be a little bit easier. But as those of you who live in Dr. Richardson, if you live in the Birmingham area, Hoover gets very congested no matter what around 7:30, 8:30 in the morning. So we've got to get out of Ross Bridge and down to American Village. And then we'll stay there the rest of the day. They're going to have breakfast for us at 9. If you're an early eater and want to get up and eat, there's of course a restaurant there at the hotel. We're going to eat at Brock's in the hotel that night, the night before.
We're eating dinner at
Ross Bridge.
So we're going to
yes,
have
sir.
a program or just
6 o'clock. Just eat. Just come in to eat, and that's all. And then the next morning, all the programming will be at American Village. they have, so again, breakfast set up for us. We're going to go through the budget. And that's as y'all know, that's the big Leo to go through. I'm going to bring those big spreadsheets again. Mr. Watts has been collecting all the requests from our department. It exceeds the available funds by hundreds of millions of dollars. And we'll kind of balance that out and get to kind of a reasonable request. But you know, that we tell our folks, dream. What do you wish you could get? And then we come, we'll talk to you about that. And then we've got a break, and then continued budget discussion if we need to, plus other things. I'm sure there'll be other items we just want to talk about. And then they're going to bring lunch in and talk to us about the celebration of the America 250 next summer, and also about everything they do at American Village. And then they're going to offer us a full tour of American Village and through the program, through the afternoon. I'm very excited about it. It's just, if you've never been, it's an amazing place. But I will tell you, I've been up there for meetings, but I've not actually been through all of the buildings since I had my oldest son, not Christopher, but so my oldest son was in 5th grade, and I went with him on a field trip. And so I'm kind of excited because they've doubled the size of it since then. And it'll be a good celebration and discussion too about America 250 and all the work that's going on around that. And then we would try to get you back on the road by 3:30. We realize that if you're going north back through Birmingham, then that's, you know, if you leave much later than that, it can get pretty congested. If you're going south, it's obviously a lot easier. But that's not a hard set dead time. Some of you may say, well, I want to get on the road a little earlier than that. We are already talking about the January retreat, and we've got some dates and things. I've got some really, I already bring it all up now, but at this retreat, I want to talk to you about the January retreat because I have some ideas about changing it up a little bit. We'll need to meet a lot earlier because the legislature will convene, I think, January 15th. 13th. That's good, mine. And we want to, and you know, it's always, we try to get it done before the legislature comes in or it gets confusing. So my proposal is that we actually combine we'll have a meeting on January 8th, that we combine our meeting with the retreat and just have it on the 8th and 9th and have the meeting and retreat together. So we're working on that. We'll talk more about it when we get to this retreat. I know we set that schedule in December, but that's too late to be making those kind of plans. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And anything else you think of, because last year, Ms. Manning, we did it up in Anniston. Several of you just kind of had idea. This is something else that would be nice to have some information on the retreat or discussion item. If you'll get those to Mr. Markham, we'll work through doing that. And if we don't have time, we'll pick them up at the September work session.
You're talking about Mobile, way south.
What's that?
You're talking about having it in the Mobile area.
In January.
That's what I asked.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Trying to think about that and do it toward the end of the weekend again, so you're not trying to do that during the middle of the week.
Take a day and a half.
It won't be Mardi Gras. So we checked all that out. So
Senior Bowl.
Senior Bowl, yeah. So it should be a weekend that we could get some rooms. And I won't be a flooded city. So yeah, it'll be okay, that's the retreat. Something else. Budget, any budget items you think about that, what about this? If you want Mr. Watts to do a little more research on it, before the retreat, let us know. And then, just a reminder how we do that, the retreat will lay it all out. That's kind of our, how do we think about the new things we might want to do? Because most of those things are going to cost money. And what would that look like? And then we'll come back to the September work session. We'll kind of pull that together and we'll have a presentation for you. Based on what we talked about at the retreat, the things that came up, this is what we suggest we go to the governor with a request for. Then in October, we have to approve a request. It is shorter this year. So we have to approve the request in October because we have to, by law, get it to the governor's office by November 1. But remember that most years, they have till February to get it to the legislature. Because of the early start of the quadrennium, they will have to get it to the legislature in time for the opening of the legislature on January 13th. So essentially, they lose about 5 weeks in budget preparation. And we're talking a lot about that because between when you adopt the official in October and when the legislature convenes, there's a lot of work that goes on. And this year, there'll be 5 weeks fewer to do that work. Now, I've gone through that before. The last year of the quadrennium is tough because there's so much that has to happen in that time frame. Just the way it has to happen in December. And so you have to think about that when you're planning trips and all. We're already working on that. But I mention it to you because if there are ideas, like we have to float those ideas up really fast to get them considered for this budget cycle, and be talking about those things ahead of time. That's kind of the main things that I had. Any other questions for me or just things on your mind?
Any updates from Federal Department of Education?
Yeah, yes ma'am, thank you for asking that. So since we met last, we have we have all of our GANs in. So those are our GANs. That's a letter that says this much money is available for federal money. So actually next Tuesday, we have a webinar with the U.S. Department of Ed. Just got the invitation this morning to talk about those programs that where the funding was withheld, but now it's been restored. And there will be some new stipulations around the funding, we're told, but we don't think, based on the drafts I've seen, we don't think any of them will really affect us in a practical sense, but the money should flow soon after that. So we'll have folks on the webinar next Tuesday. So we think all that funding will flow. Also, since we last met, the Senate has put out their version of the FY27 federal budget, and they have restored all of the cuts that were in the president's budget and increased Title I. So now we have 2 versions. We have the president's version, and all the programs that were on review and were held up, the president's budget had cut out. But the Senate budget restores all of those and increases. And now it'll be the House's turn. The House, of course, has been on recess. I'm not sure if they're back in yet or not. I don't think so. But all that'll be worked out over the next 12 months or so. We're in pretty good shape. Some of you've also read in the news about the government could shut down in the next few weeks. It really doesn't affect us because the money that's in that continuing resolution is not our title or special ed or CMP funding. Our funding comes through a different congressional act, and so it's already been approved. Our funding was approved back in March, so we're good to go. We're waiting on this next round of budget, but whether they do the CR or not really doesn't affect us directly. Otherwise, the U.S. Department of Ed is just moving right along. We do not have our date yet. You may have seen last week the Secretary announced that she's going to visit all 50 states, and she didn't say how quickly she was going to visit all of them. I know she's visited Arkansas. I think she was trying to do Arkansas, Tennessee, and Louisiana all in a day or something, and I saw a news story about the Arkansas visit, but we have not gotten our notice yet about when she's coming here. We're excited about it, and there are a lot of things on the list I want her to see, but how we've had visits from secretaries in the past, I will tell you, we usually get 24 hours notice. And that's just the way, it's a security thing with them. So we get 24 hours notice, and here's where the secretary is going to be, and if you want to join her. And, it just depends on whether we can or not. So those are not scheduled around our availability. Just know that. Or they have not been in the past. The last 2 secretaries that I've worked with, and 3 secretaries, that's how it's handled. Now they may do differently with the new administration, but in the past that's the way they've done it. And again, purely because of security. I don't not say that. Anything else? Good question. Anyone else? Well, we'll have hot lunch upstairs for you. I know we're getting some short work sessions in, but we got some big projects coming toward the end of the year that we'll be landing in. Of course, October, you remember, is always a very long meeting and work session. We have a lot of things that come in October, so it's coming soon. Ma'am, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey, and thank you, board and department, for your support this week. It has been a tough week, and it will continue to be tough, but I thank you for your support. Thank you very much.
You're gonna get steak for lunch?
I am.
Yeah.